Hello, my name is Trevor Albertson, and this is my presentation for CIT 336 on for loops. To begin, I'd like to talk about what a for loop is. As you can see on this page to the right, this discusses the for loops or the loop types available in PHP. So there's the for loop, the while loop, the do while loop, and the for each loop. And I'm going to be discussing specifically what the for loop is. Now, a for loop is a control statement in a programming language such as PHP, and it is used for iteration, which allows the code to be executed repeatedly. And it's used when the user knows how many times they want a statement to be executed. And as previously stated, the for loop is used when the number of iterations is known prior to entering the loop. And so it's available in many programming languages, but the syntax may differ, as well as how statements work and many other things. So there are differences. And as you can see here, there are 4 different kinds of for loops that are commonly used anyway. So traditional for loops, there's iterator-based for loops, vectorized for loops, and then compound for loops. And the traditional for loop is definitely the easiest one to read. Unfortunately, PHP uses a traditional version of for loops, as you can see here in the for loop syntax slide. So there's 3 different counters. There's the init counter, the test counter, and the increment counter. And just to give you a visual using some code, right here, x equals 0 is the init counter. X is less than or equal to 10 is the test counter, and then x plus plus is the increment counter. And so the init counter, what it does is it initializes the counter value. The test counter evaluates each loop. And so as it's evaluating, it looks to see if the loop proves to be true. So if it's true, it continues to loop. And then once it reaches the point where it's false, the loop ends. And so, for example, in this code, it will continue, it'll start at 0, and it will continue until it reaches 10. And once it reaches 10, it ends. And then the increment counter, this increases the loop counter value. So as it is written right now, x plus plus, it will increment by 1. And so we'll go and look up the example. And you can see here, it starts at 0, and it goes all the way to 10. And this is just to give you another look at the example I used. But we can make some changes to the code so that it increments by 2. So that's what we'll do right here. We'll change the increment counter so that, oops, we don't need 2 double $signs, so that it increments by 2. And then you can see here that it starts at 0 and it goes 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And we can also make it so that it counts backwards, starting at 10 and going to 1, as you can see here. And then we'll just go back to what I wrote originally. Those are just some examples of the for loop. This other example uses arrays. So as you can see here, I've made a list of presidents. I'm using the first 4 presidents, they being George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and James Madison. So with arrays, it's starts at 0, so you can see here x equals 0. So George Washington is 0, John Adams is 1, Thomas Jefferson is 2, and then James Madison is 3. And so it will count it, and it'll go by each index until it reaches the final index. And it'll be listed the same way as it is here. And so what I'm going to do is just erase all this and then get rid of that so it doesn't comment the code out anymore. Save it and then refresh the page. And there we have George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and James Madison listed right here. So this is also, this diagram right here is to provide more of a visual for us to understand how for loops work. So you can see it starts and it continues to execute the statement. And if it proves to be true, the statement continues to loop, and it can loop for, I mean, let's see, let's try something a little, not too crazy, but let's see, we'll make it so it's 100. We'll refresh it, and then you can see here, it goes all the way down to 100. We'll do 1,000. And then it just keeps going on until it reaches 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. Let's try 1,000,000. Hopefully it doesn't crash my web browser. That's still counting, so it's going to take a little bit longer to count, but it'll eventually reach 1,000,000. So those are just some examples of the for loop in PHP. And my sources, I went to W3 Schools, I went to Tutorials Point, and then I went to Wikipedia to look up some definitions. But that's my presentation on for loops. Thank you for watching, and I hope this explanation of for loops was helpful. Thanks for watching again.